You're listening to One Piece of Advice, brought to you by EEleaders.com, a ministry to encourage and equip church leaders.
Hi, I'm Kevin Day. I pastor Calvary Chapel South in Kent, Washington. I've been in ministry for over 40 years. 27 years ago, I began a Bible study, and that has now developed into a church of about 800 people or so on Saturday nights and Sundays. It's been awesome to see what the Lord's done in spite of us, in spite of me. We so appreciate the grace of God. The thing that I would want to leave as one piece of advice or one important leadership principle for us and for myself over these last three or four years is the area of trust. To build trust in our relationship with one another, particularly when it comes to leadership and our staff culture. We must have this important thing called trust in our relationships with one another. We have an acronym that we've used for about 5 years. It's TEAM. And we say great teams trust each other, great teams energize each other, great teams appreciate each other, and great teams maximize each other. And 5 or so years ago when we started, we would say that those four things every staff meeting. And then about 3+ years ago, as we were restructuring and reorganizing, we came into this time, which has been over the last 3 years, of what I would call God's gracious discipline of our relationships and our staff, when we realized that because we'd been together for the length of time we have, we really didn't have the trust that God wanted us to have for each other. And so there were little things, the fox is spoiling the vine, little things that would happen that would sort of get brushed away. And then when we came to this time of restructuring, we realized that the Lord was wanting us to change some of the things that were going on in our relationships with one another. And if you had come, you would probably not even have known this, but we knew, and God was raising that up to our awareness. So we put all that stuff aside, all those hours of planning and reorganizing. We hired someone to come in at a fairly substantial cost because our relationships with one another were the most important thing that we have. And so over the course of the last 3 years or so, we've been working through some of these things. God's been gracious, He's been gentle, and I wish I could say we all lived happily ever after, but indeed there are still some difficulties in these things, but we have come out the other side now with a culture that we are so enjoying because we've reestablished the trust that we have for one another. And so out of that has come these things. Number one, trust must be intentionally developed. It's not going to just happen. Secondly, trust must be intentionally nurtured. We have to give ourselves to really being aware of the need that we have, to be generous, to show empathy, to honor our word, to fill in the gaps with trust, not suspicion. And then trust must be intentionally rebuilt. And so how do I do that? Here's what I want to encourage you with, this one principle, this important leadership truth. Develop, build trust. How do I do that? First of all, two couples, what I call them. Time and transparency. Take the time and whatever time is needed to develop the transparency that you need in your relationship if there's going to be trust. And then secondly, truth and testimony. So as we spend the time being transparent, as we take whatever time is needed to work through the things that we need to in honesty, in confession, and thank yous, or rather saying I'm sorry, I forgive you, all those things, that develops now a relationship on truth, and truth becomes a testimony to the glory and grace of God. So there's no growth without change. There is no change without loss. There is no loss without pain. So the degree to which we are willing to change is the degree to which we will grow. I put it this way also. No change, no growth. If there's no growth, it's a slow death. And I know that you don't want that, and I don't want that. What we want to see is a living, growing church under our leadership and our responsibilities, along with a whole team that God's given to us. So build trust as best as you can. Continue to work on that. Make that the fundamental thing that you're doing with your leadership. God bless you.